What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This? This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, then we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 and either build them or fix them depending on how they rank. Now today we finish up our talks on the new and very much improved Berserker Barbarian. We talked about all that now goes into it, what changed, all that good stuff earlier this week, and I'll put that up in the icon above for you to check out, but today we are going to be building one together, and I am very excited to be doing that. Before we jump into it, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, also share the video with your friends, and of course click the bell so you're notified when new videos are uploaded. Of course, one other great way to support the channel is by clicking that join button down below. For only $2 a month, you can be at the lowest possible tier, but you still get all the main stuff. You still get access to all of my build guides, that's the important thing, and of course we're going to be continuing those build guides into 2024. There's also a lot of homebrew stuff in there that we added for 2024 rules. A lot of great stuff. Make sure to check that out. And of course there are higher tiers and of course more perks that come with those. But for all of you who are just here watching, thank you so much for your support. This is an interesting one. I have not built for 2024 just yet. Like I've said in the past, my table is not going to 2024, and I know a lot of people are not doing that either. But yeah, we're going to give it a really good try, and I think it's going to be fun. Now, I will say, I know that I normally do a lot of multi-classing here on the channel. However, I really don't think that the Berserker lends itself all that much to multi-classing. I think that it gets pretty much everything that it needs within its own kit, so we're not going to be doing any multi-classing today. Now, the Wild Heart, there's a new one called the Wild Heart. That one tends to want to multi-class a little bit, but the Berserker really doesn't. You get everything you need right here, so we're going to be going straight 20 levels in Barbarian. And without any further ado, let's jump right in. Starting off, we have our race, species, whatever you want to call it. Same difference, I don't care. We're going to go with one that is very, very typical, honestly, for barbarians. But you know what? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And we're going to go with the Goliath. Now, the Goliath in 2024 is very similar to what it used to be, outside of one very key amazing difference. You now get to choose a giant ancestry, right? You're going to be you're a baby giant, sort of, and so you get to choose a giant ancestry, and you get to take on some kind of feature based on what giant you choose. Now, there are a lot of different options, and there are some really interesting ones. The forest giant is really, really cool, honestly, very flavorful and very powerful. We're not doing that though. Of course, you have the fire-based giants. Of course, those deal a bunch of fire damage. That's pretty cool. Instead, what we're going with today is the Frost's Chill for the frost giants, and the main reason why is 1, extra damage, which is always a good thing, but 2, we actually get to slow our enemies down, and you're going to notice that a bunch during this build, and I've got a very interesting way of slowing people down, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be great. We also get large form, which is pretty cool, as well as powerful build, very similar to what it used to be in the old ways. So yeah, overall a very solid race, species, whatever, for D&D. It's going to be great. Definitely a fantastic barbarian. For background, that's right, we have to talk about backgrounds now. I've always skipped those in past builds, but now they actually are very important. And so we're going to go with the soldier background. Again, very, very typical for barbarians now, but we really need our ASIs to go in a certain way, and we also get some pretty cool stuff with this. So of course we get an origin feat with this, and the one that comes with soldier is the Savage Attacker. Savage Attacker is not too bad, letting us reroll a damage roll. Not too bad, honestly. I like that. We get athletics and intimidation as our proficiencies. Not the best, honestly. Athletics isn't used all that much, especially because grappling has been changed, so you're not going to see that all that much. And intimidation, we're not going to really be using charisma all that much, although we might be able to find a way to use strength for intimidation and that kind of thing, but that's a whole other thing. So that may come into play, but yeah, oh well. We also get proficiency with a gaming set of our choice. Whatever, pick whatever you want there. For our stats, okay, listen, I've been getting all kinds of comments for literally years now about the way that I do stats, and I think it's funny that I get comments on it pretty much every week. So today, you know what? We're going to change it up. We're changing the way that we're doing things on the channel. So here you go. We're doing normal point buy, okay? You happy? Everybody in the comments section happy? Okay, let me know in the comments. that you're very happy that we're going to normal point by. There you go. So for our strength, we're going to take a 15 and put our +2 from our race there. We're going to get a 15 in dexterity. We're going to get a 15 in constitution +1. That leaves us with an 8 in intelligence and an 8 in charisma. I don't care. We don't need them for anything. And we can still get a 12 in wisdom. Not too bad, honestly. I'm okay with that spread. It's cool. We can definitely make use of that. And if you wanted to spread your stats somewhere else, you could. You could definitely take 1 less in dexterity if you wanted to. There's plenty of ways that you could make this work and it still do well for you. For equipment, this is interesting. I'm going to take 2 weapons. I normally just recommend taking 1, but I want to have 2 different modes on this build, and you'll see why here in a little bit. Our main mode is going to be with a maul. I don't think that that's shocking to anybody. A 2-handed weapon, hits hard, deals a lot of damage, that kind of thing. But in the back, I want us to also have a whip. Now, whips are notoriously one of the worst weapons in the game, and I totally agree with you on that. However, they were given a very particular weapon mastery when it was added in here, and it's very unique that it is the only slashing weapon that I could see that also has slow. And I think you'll see what I mean when we get to what I'm trying to do with this. So there's some interesting things, and you'll see what I mean about that. So let's start taking some levels here. Again, we're going 20 levels in Barbarian. So at level 1, we're going to be a Barbarian 1, and we're going to get Rage. Of course, Rage is our fantastic feature. We, of course, talked about all of the Barbarian changes and things that they do back last week. So I'll put that up in the icon above for you to check out if you have any questions about what Barbarians do. But yeah, Rage gives us some resistances, and it gives us a little bit of a bonus to damage. We get boosts to our strength related things. Really good stuff all around. Definitely a fantastic feature. And we also get unarmored defense here. You can choose whether or not you want to use this. Your dexterity is not terrible on this build, and it will actually get a smidge better. Our constitution's not too bad, but you're probably better off actually wearing armor for now, but it's up to you. Eventually, there probably will be a point where getting rid of armor is probably better, but at least for now, you're probably better off wearing armor. And of course, we also get weapon mastery, and we have 2 weapons that I recommended, and those are your 2 weapons that you can take the weapon masteries in, which is really great. I wanted to have something that had topple, which is why we went with the maul, and I wanted something with slow for the whip, and so that is why we went with those. At Barbarian 2, we're going to get Danger Sense, and we get Reckless Attack. Danger Sense, of course, very classic feature, and it even got buffed in 2024, so where you don't even have to see the effect, you just get the advantage, which is fantastic. And Reckless Attack also got buffed to where we can now do this on opportunity attacks, which is great. So you give yourself advantage for the whole turn, and you just start wailing, which is fantastic. I absolutely love that. Yes, you're going to have advantage on yourself, but it's worth it. It's worth it most of the time, so why not? At Barbarian 3, we get Frenzy, and this is so much better than it used to be. No more exhaustion, no more any of that. Even though exhaustion is not as bad as it used to be, this is still much improved. We just get bonus damage on top of it, and it scales really nicely, especially if we're taking 20 levels in Barbarian. Again, I don't really want to multi-class here because it just the scaling is so nice. So we're going to stick with that and just get extra damage on top of extra damage, on top of extra damage. It's great. So Primal Knowledge we also get here. This is a feature back from Tasha's that is now canon, which is pretty cool. And then Barbarian 4, we get our first ASI or feat, not counting Origin. And I'm going to take Great Weapon Master. Now listen, Great Weapon Master got nerfed so hard. It's so bad now, honestly, but it gives us a +1 to strength. Okay, and it also allows us to re-roll some low rolls, which is a good thing, and crits are better. So there are some really good things here. I'm honestly here because it's a half feat. That's the biggest thing, is just to give me that bonus in strength. There is another half feat that we're going to take here in just a little bit, and you will see what I mean about that. And I think that them together is going to be really cool at boosting up both of our modes, and you'll see what I mean here in just a minute. At Barbarian 5, Extra Attack, of course, comes online, which is fantastic. You can't go wrong with that. And we also get fast movement. I love that as well. Being able to move when we rage, definitely a fantastic thing. Mindless Rage, again, got buffed just a little bit. Not as life-changing as some of these other features were, but still not a bad feature at all, being able to ignore the Charmed and Frightened kind of things and be able to get rid of it instead of just delaying it. Definitely fantastic. And then Barbarian 7, Feral Instinct and Instinctive Pounce. Both fantastic features. Of course, one of those being a Tasha's feature originally, but now brought into canon. I love them both. Honestly, they're great. They're great. Again, Barbarian got a lot of love in the 2024 rules, and I think it's fantastic. But Barbarian 8, this is what we're here for, right? This is really where I think that we can do something fun. And so we're going to take the Slasher feat. Now, Slasher, of course, is not going to work on our Maul. It would work on our Whip, however, and this is cool. Number one, we're going to get a +1 to our Dexterity because that's kind of where we're stuck, honestly, but that's going to help us out with our armor class with unarmored defense, or even if you are wearing armor and you can get up to a +3 bonus with whatever it is you're wearing, then that actually would help you out in that case. So definitely something to consider there. But here's the other thing. Slasher, just like it used to, will still reduce the speed of a creature by 10 feet if we hit them with an attack that deals slashing damage. Okay, we have a Whip that also has the slow mastery on it. That's another 10 feet. And we also have Frost's Chill from being a Goliath. That's 30 feet in one hit. So what that means is that as long as you hit, it's once per turn because Slasher is limited. You can't just start doing this to everybody. But once per turn, we can knock off 30 feet off of something's movement speed. For a lot of creatures, that is going to be all of their movement speed, and that is really, really funny, and I like that a lot. So yeah, we're working through all of these things. Again, Whip doesn't do enough damage to where I would say that that's our primary mode, but when there is something that's trying to get away and you really want it to stick around, this is your option. And this is honestly even better than just an opportunity attack, because you can actually just straight up reduce their speed to 0. And I think it's great. We also have reach with a Whip too, which I think is also really, really cool. At Barbarian 9, we of course get Brutal Strike, and this now just allows us to deal extra damage, which is fantastic. Again, this used to be Brutal Critical, and that was just not all that helpful just because it was only locked to crits, and those happen very rarely, so it wasn't as good. But now it's really nice, actually. Barbarian 10, we get Retaliation. Fantastic. This means that we can then reduce somebody's speed to 0. If somebody's trying to run up, hit us, and then run away, you're not getting away. You're stuck here because now we get to make an attack against you since you tried to hit me. So that's really cool, and I think that's really strong, especially with this combo. At Barbarian 11, we get Relentless Rage, which is just a really nice survival feature, honestly. Of course, when we drop to 0, we can now get back up, and we then have to just make a saving throw, which honestly we're probably going to make at least the first 1 or 2 pretty reliably, and then after that it gets really tough. But still, I think this is a really, really nice feature there. At Barbarian 12, we of course get another ASI feat. I'm gonna just take +2 strength. I think there's no reason to do anything else at this point. And then Barbarian 13, we get improved Brutal Strike. Again, this just gets even better, which is great. So we get even more options for basically different types of weapon masteries, kind of. We just get more options, which is great. Then we also get at Barbarian 14, we get Intimidating Presence, which is great. So that's a fear effect, a little emanation fear effect, which is cool. Definitely very much improved over the old way that this worked, because now it's based on our strength rather than our charisma, and just all kinds of ways. This is just so much better. So yeah, I definitely like this feature way more nowadays. Very cool. At Barbarian 15, Persistent Rage, now we have a much more reliable and longer lasting rage, which is fantastic. So yeah, essentially we're just gonna have rage all the time, essentially, and we have so many uses of it right now. Unless your DM is just insane and throwing so many combat encounters at you that you run out, I really don't think that you're going to have any issues with running out, especially at this point. So I think you're good. At Barbarian 16, we are going to get another ASI or feat, and we're going to get whichever one you want. I would either bump Constitution by 2 to get that up to an 18, or you could take the tough feat if you are more focused on your hit points. So either way, you're still going to get hit points if you do the Constitution, but you're not going to get as many as if you go tough. But Constitution also is going to bump up your AC, so that's also a thing if you wanted to do that for your unarmored defense. So it's really up to you on which way you want to go there. But I mean, honestly, we would have a 16 dexterity and an 18 in Constitution. That's not bad. That's really not a bad AC there. So I'm cool either way. So yeah, whichever way you think is good. And then improved brutal strike at Barbarian 17, we now get to use 2 at once, which is really good. Then Barbarian 18, Indomitable Might, again just boosting our strength-based things, which is again really good, par for the course. Then Barbarian 19, something that we have never really talked about in D&D here on the channel, and that is epic boons. Now, epic boons are something that did exist, but basically nobody used. That was basically the what happens when you get past level 20 kind of stuff before. Now it's just a part of everything, and at level 19, you get one. There are several that I really like here for this, and honestly, these are applicable to a lot of different character types. But Boon of Irresistible Offense is cool just because now you're just going to always ignore resistance, which is cool. And the reason why this is cool is because the resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage that is non-magical is really not that much of a thing anymore in 2024. So it's usually just a blanket bludgeoning, piercing, and or slashing when something has resistance now, and so this gets around that regardless. So that's cool because now just having a magical weapon does not mean that you're going to get around resistance. So definitely cool, which you would have a magical weapon at level 19. You're gonna have something crazy at this level, hopefully. But yeah, this would get you around that if you need to. You also get Boon of Combat Prowess, and there's also Boon of Recovery. I think Boon of Recovery is interesting. I don't know that I would go with that one first, honestly. Boon of Combat Prowess is probably going to be my main option, but yeah, Boon of Recovery is definitely nice too for just keeping you up, because of course Rage is essentially doubling the HP you have when you're taking damage from bludgeoning, piercing, slashing damage, and so that also helps you to stay alive a lot longer than it would, you know, giving it to somebody else. So I think that both of them definitely have their merits there. Then finally, Barbarian 20, Primal Champion. This is, again, really cool as well. This, of course, is going to boost us up to a max of now 25 rather than 24. And the reason it's 25 is because you can boost your strength or Constitution at level 19, because that's up to a max of 30. So there are ways of doing that up to 25, and honestly, either way is fine. You're not going to get any extra boost by going to 25 versus 24, so that's why I'm not dead set on getting that. But if it works out for you, then by all means, go for it. It's there for you for sure. So that is our build for today. Let me know what you think. That is my first 2024 build, and so hopefully I didn't mess it up too badly. And we'll see. I'm sure you all will let me know in the comments. I do have some honorable mentions going forward here, and yeah, these are just some options that you can swap in if you don't like what I used here. For other racial options, of course, the Aasimar is going to be a standout here. This is going to be one of the best barbarians out there, honestly. I think that everything that's out there for it now, I think it's fantastic. I think it works fantastically as a barbarian specifically, so definitely a great option. Of course, there's no Frost's Chill for this specific combination, but still, there's a lot here. You can even get Flight, which is great. So you also have the Orc. The Orc has been, of course, changed a little bit, and but it's really good though in the PHB. I think it's really good. And I would also mention the Dwarf. The Dwarf, of course, now getting things like Tremor Sense is really cool, and there's a couple other things that make it a really valuable barbarian option, so definitely really cool option there. For other feat options, I've got a couple that I would mention here, and the first one is going to be Tavern Brawler. Now, Tavern Brawler is one that in 2014 I would have never mentioned, and I did never mention it because it was horrible. Now it's actually viable because of how unarmed strikes now work. Unarmed strikes have very much changed, and it is very viable for a Berserker Barbarian to go on the route of just doing unarmed strikes. it makes a lot of sense here, and this helps you out with that quite a bit. Another great option is now 2-weapon fighting. Now, of course, you do have to have a fighter dip or some other way of getting access to the 2-weapon fighting style, because those are now feats that are locked with a feature, and it's a little more complicated than it needed to be, honestly, in my opinion. But yeah, either way, I would consider doing this. If you're doing a fighter dip, then that would absolutely be an option. Speaking of fighter dips, Champion and Battlemaster make a ton of sense here. I don't see there being really any better options right now at this point. Of course, Eldritch Knight doesn't make a whole lot of sense at this point, just because you can't really do magic while you're raging, so I'd steer clear of that. But either way, Champion definitely would appreciate your constant advantage, and that way you have access to a crit on a 19 or 20, which is great, so definitely an option there. And Battlemaster, of course, is basically like getting a bunch of options for now weapon masteries. It's kind of like that. So Battlemaster definitely is not as good as it used to be, just because, you know, if everybody's super, then no one will be, and that's kind of where we're at on that now, which is pretty cool. But of course, we'll talk about those when we get to that part of the series. Next up is the Assassin Rogue, again one that I would probably never have suggested, but here we are suggesting it because of how it has been changed, and it actually would work really well here, especially with the whip, because that's a finesse weapon. So I think we could make that absolutely happen. But I do think that if you're going to go with Assassin Rogue on this, you probably would want to actually not take all that much Barbarian and take a ton of Rogue. So I just don't think it works for this. And then finally, the Open Hand Monk. The Monk, of course, has been massively buffed, and I'm very excited to be talking about that here in a few months. Of course, it works great for somebody who is wanting to work on unarmed strikes. I think that it's fantastic. It definitely helps to boost your options there. You get a lot of really cool ways of using your unarmed strikes and getting really cool bonuses with Open Hand. So I think it's really, really cool. So that is your build. Let me know what you think down below. Next week, we're going to be continuing with our Barbarian series, and I am very excited about that. And until next time, stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.